So the first part I was really just going to say is a big thank you to everyone, because I was a little nervous kind of knowing that we've got a pretty small staff and you are kind of tightly scheduled as well. So I was concerned when the semester started with, oh no, what if somebody gets sick and we need a sub? Everybody was kind of working at their max and where they could work. So praise God for health for you guys. And also thank you to each of you for being faithful and prompt in your serving in your shifts, and also all you on-call people for adding that as kind of a regular part of your schedule. We've really been appreciative of you serving really well. And the numbers also show it. People come back if they get a good experience. And so we've had very strong numbers. So that's showing that they're being served well and they're returning. So thank you for the good, excellent service that you're giving. I've always wanted to have a mid-semester CS Lab training meeting no matter what, but I thought it was really critical this time just because you are serving so many students. And we've had a lot of changes with changing to face-to-face formats, and also serving in a hybrid format. That's never really been done before in CS Lab. So I wanted to kind of see what's been best practices that you have been seeing and what has been successful for you. And then also to just kind of share some ideas together that we've thought about. And I have met with Julia twice, so she's going to go through some of the notes together. We kind of brainstormed together some of the things that we thought might be most helpful and most important for working in CS Lab at this time when we've kind of shifted to a new mode of serving. But I think students in general have been very appreciative of the face-to-face option. And I think that has been part of our success, is just being able to have them there to work with us. So we'll get more response from you. Another quick note, recruiting. I really didn't like how tight our schedule was this time, where I kind of used every last person as much as they possibly could be used. So I'd really like to have some flex for fall and try to recruit more students. A lot of times that's helpful from your recommendations. Anyone that we get as a recommendation needs to be kind of vetted through profs. So we would go through that same process, but sometimes your recommendations are the best, because you can also talk to that person about what it's like to be a tutor and the experience you gain and people skills and all the other good things. And so you can be a part of kind of helping a student get connected to us. So if you have anybody that's not a tutor, that's a friend of yours that you think, hey, that person would really be a great CS Lab tutor, shoot me an email with their name. And then I would go to profs. So if you happen to know what course they'd be great for tutoring, let me know that as well. So welcome, John. We're glad you're here. We're on the, can somebody chat him the notes? And we're working through the notes that I'm sharing on the screen as well. So the next part is kind of a check-in, and I wish we'd had the whole group here, but you guys can be representative of some of the feedback, but also if you're watching this later, please do send me any feedback that you might have as far as any issues or things that are working well, etc. So this part's really from you all. Just kind of wanted to use these prompts, but if there's something else that you wanted to share, let me know. But so first of all, kind of what has gone well, what have been some successes, what do you think is working well? If I were to just from the outside in, I think the face-to-face has really been a success. So I would say that's one thing that's gone well. So that's good to see some head nods on that one. But I think that has really improved our attendance and things like that. So tell me, what about face-to-face has worked, do you think, with students?
Something I've noticed is that they are a lot more free to like discuss with one another. And especially for the algorithms class, which is a little bit more on their own, they are really able to figure things out through discussion. And it feels a lot like Math Lab did last semester with that. And to a lesser extent, if there's a big crowd of scientific computing students, they can typically work with each other well. And I like to see that happening. They're really good at like telling each other things, but like not telling too much. Like I see that happening, like they'll stop themselves too.
Oh, good. Mhm.
And kind of to add to that too, it's really nice when there's a group of people struggling with a similar problem. You can go to a single whiteboard and explain it one time to maybe 3 or 4 people instead of having to bounce around to breakout rooms. It's nice to do that.
Good. Yeah, that's great. Mhm. Group work is a lot easier. We're going to be talking about group work too, so that's good. Any other things? I was just pulling out that face-to-face because I think that's one that it's been fun to watch the numbers and see that online has been pretty rare almost. That it seems like that's usually 1 to 2 students max per session that are online, that most people are coming face-to-face, which makes it easier to serve those students. I'm going to ask questions. Sorry, you guys are the ones supposed to be talking, but how has hybrid gone? I shouldn't put it, I should put it here. I don't know, you tell me where to put it. Is it a success or is it a problem issue? I just know for math lab, it's been a hard thing and that's why we've limited our hybrid time. So I'm curious what you think. We limit our hybrid time for math lab to just certain periods because students find it hard to be split. Tutors find it hard to be split between the classroom and the online students. It works sometimes, like discrete, they do an okay job of that because you're kind of all lockstep on the same things, but it's still even hard there. This is the most bizarre thing. I don't know what it is that you're CS lab people. I just had this conversation I have literally 10, 20 Zoom meetings a day with all kinds of people because I'm in administrative stuff. I said, I rebooted my computer, did all kinds of things because last time this happened on the CS lab meeting, I was like, the CS lab meeting somehow is cursed and goes in and out for me. So man, Julia, you're going to be in the back pocket. I don't know what it is about this meeting. But we're right here. So hybrid, where would you put it? Is it a problem or is it a thing that goes well? And have you recognized that that's just hard to serve both of those populations?
Sorry. So I guess personally, I think as long as like the amount of people that are coming in online is like minimal, it goes well. I think like if we all of a sudden started to get a lot of online people, then we might kind of want to like break up, only online like at this time or whatever. But as long as the numbers stay fairly low for that, it's pretty easy just to, circulate through and stuff, I think.
Yeah, definitely seconding that. It's a lot easier, I think, to deal with than maybe in the past when there was more people off campus. And now that there's only like 1 or 2 online, if that, a lot of times, I know last week we didn't have anyone. I've usually been the only tutor who's even looking at the computer, and switching back and forth between the person online and between, a few people in the room has been very doable. The only problem I think I'm noticing is that Zoom does not like that I have the lobby screen up and my session up that I'm doing, like meeting with people in. And it says that I'm not allowed to do that, but it lets me do it anyway. But it messes up my like logins and it's kind of slow. That's about it.
The lobby and which other one? Like a breakout room? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, so when I usually have the lobby screen open on the classroom computer, and then I log in again on my own laptop, and that's the one I use when I am meeting with people in like breakout rooms, and I just kind of like wait in the lobby for people to show up. But when I log in to the classroom computer, it logs me out on my laptop. And so I log back in again, and then I go on to Zoom and it tells me I'm not allowed to like be logged into Zoom twice, but it
Oh.
still lets me do it. So I don't
Okay.
know.
This maybe we'll circle back to you later on that one, but being duplicating yourself, we do have a documentation on that. I could just
Sure.
shoot it to you to see if you're already doing all the things that are in that documentation. So yeah,
That'd be
no, but that's a good thing to talk about too, is any issues that you've seen, because that was one on the list. That's kind of a Zoom. I'll maybe put it down in that list. Zoom issues. Anything anybody wanted to say about hybrid anymore before? So kind of going okay for now. Are you each having in each session at least one person who's kind of watching that? Okay. Mhm. Well, let me know how that goes. If we would ever come to a point that you're like math lab where you're getting a larger group, we might like split things up. Like for example, for math lab, we only have hybrid hours. So it just allows you to kind of stay focused on the room for part of it and then hybrid for the last part of it. So we could go to some kind of option like that if it ever gets to be too much. So keep me posted if that ever becomes an issue. So anything else for what has gone well or talking about hybrid? Anything to talk about what you've noticed works well or problems in either of those categories?
I have noticed that it goes quicker, just tutoring wise, when we split up based on class. So like if I were to take algorithms and computer architecture and someone else were to take computer, one of the other classes, but splitting up based on class, because then you're in that headspace. And so your explanations come quicker. I feel like that's worked best, but that's just me too. So
Yeah, no, I would second that for sure.
And specifically for the one that Alex and I are in, there's kind of a natural, like, people are best suited to different classes. Like, I don't do scientific, and Alex is probably the best for algorithms. So that's just kind of happened naturally. And I think it also helps so that they don't have to keep re-explaining the homework assignment, and they can actually, like, work on re-explaining their actual problem they're having.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's awesome. It really does help to kind of optimize. So I think all of these are kind of a product of being face-to-face too. It's just allowed you to use that expertise better and group students better. Okay, I'm not going to dwell too much here. I guess I had some of this other stuff down below that we've already discussed. So anything else that pops out as kind of a good success or any problems that we need to think about together?
there was just another thing I was going to mention. I've talked to a couple of the scientific computing students, and they feel like they have a lot of questions and problems with their code. So they're always like, oh man, I wish there was like a second scientific computing tutor, because there's just so many of them. There's like usually 8 in there a night, at least when I'm there. So if there was extra scientific computing help, that would be good.
I guess I'll ask all of you, anybody who's scientific wants to add anything to the schedule. Let me know, shoot me an email if you have extra space. But that's kind of a fun problem, because I don't know if you remember, we had a hard time getting scientific students to come in. And for some of the last semesters, they haven't come in. And so that's great to see that that population is starting to come in and get help. Because when I asked, it wasn't that they didn't need help, they just weren't coming. So good problem. But yeah, let me know if you'd ever like to add any time. Any tutor labs or Zoom issues that you've observed? Okay. Checklist, basically kind of what I hear from most tutors is that they use it their first time or first 1 or 2 times, And then it's kind of a reference. Is that mainly how you've used it? And is there, if you if you see something that you wish was on that checklist or doesn't serve CS Lab well, let me know, shoot me an email, because especially, what would be great for you guys, you're all experienced tutors now, look at that checklist and see, does that seem to serve a new tutor well? And if not, what would I add? So if you think of anything like that, go ahead and shoot me an email to let me know of things that are missing. That's where I've found the greatest improvements is when tutors kind of look at that and say, oh, we really should have this. So let me know if you see anything that should be added to that checklist. Okay, I'm going to start flying now unless anybody has anything else they wanted to debrief on. Okay, I'm going to go into a few issues we've noticed. One is that there have been some authentication issues with some tutors when they get the laptop the next time after you. It somehow will log into that previous tutor. So we've been adding this just kind of extra step, if possible, if you're running the computer for the session. So this will be the sign-in computer, to make sure at the end you just go out and actually sign out of Chrome is the browser you should be using. So sign out of that so that the next person will get their own authentication and nothing will get screwed up. I can't remember. I think it was in Tutor Labs that it was picking up the authentication from the previous user. So try to always log out of that. Answer key laptops, you guys don't have much to do, but make sure you're being really careful with that. We did have a laptop turned into us from security. On Sunday night, I asked the tutor, it was already missing then. So we don't know when it went missing, if it was the Thursday night CS lab session or the math lab session or what. But anyways, be really careful with putting back laptops. You basically have to put back, and is that correct? 2 laptops? That's been a little elusive. One is the sign-in one, and then I think you have one available for student checkout. In that cabinet.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you, Naomi.
I know we had some problems on Thursday night. Like, something that's been happening is that pretty much everyone stays in the room long after it's over with. And I have, like, to go back to my room as the lead tutor, and like I can't always stay around like to close everything up. And so sometimes I know that last Thursday I left the stuff in the care of Alex and Julia, who had keys. Julia, I don't know, Ruth. It was someone
Ruth
was there and had keys, and so
Yeah, it was
like,
me and Ruth.
is that not a good idea to do in the future?
Yeah, I would
Or-
say when the session is done, close it down. Students are welcome to stay, and hang out and do stuff. I would say for tutors to kind of try to watch that you end the session on time, just because you don't want to give students the expectation that people will stay around and help. So it's just really good to kind of start and end sessions on time. And I would say put away materials at the allotted time as well. Were you going to say something, Julia?
Oh no, I was just gonna tell Anna, like, yeah, just like once it's done, like what I've just been doing, because I've noticed the same thing. So I'll just like, announce to everybody that I'm signing them out, put away the materials, and just say, feel free to obviously keep working in here. But like we're as tutors done for the night. So
That's what I have been doing. It's just that I think one of the binders was still in use, like one of the keys when the other tutors was staying. I don't remember who or which class they were working with, but like it was a thing that happened. I think it's happened like once before as well.
Yeah, the algorithms usually takes a lot longer.
Well, Alex, I'd kind of get them to start ending too as much as you can. Do you have online access? Because that would be a way that you could kind of continue to work with them if you wanted to. And then that would need putting
think so,
away.
yeah. I've been working on just trying to get to the algorithms group sooner.
Good.
Honestly, if I'm going to understand the algorithms problems, I have to just start that right at the beginning, because it's different than when I took the course. So it takes
Yeah.
the full session for me to understand the problem and
Yeah.
be able to explain it.
Mhm.
So like if I'm doing algorithms, I'm kind of just dedicated to algorithms.
And that's okay.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a big group, but we'll talk about that a little more. The next thing I was just going to quickly say is it's busy, so use your on-call. And I would say from now on, let's just make those on-call tutors permanent. So just come no matter what if you're an on-call tutor. Traditionally, it gets busier as the semester goes, and so we will probably only get busier. So we'll talk more about the busyness strategies too. Tutor training notes, online students, we talked about them a little bit already, but just make sure that you've got your online notification turned on. And if that's not on, look at the checklist. It's got directions on how to turn that on, because that makes that ding noise, you know, when they enter. So you at least have another way of checking that. I wouldn't rely on that all the time. We've had that sometimes fail in math lab, but it's just a nice, helpful thing to make sure that they're being recognized when they come in. So check periodically. I'm glad to hear you're having at least one person per session kind of watching that as well. Algorithms, just like Alex said, has changed. So as much as you can stay on top of that, that's great. If you have time, like Alex, you could do this. Try to look a little bit at the section ahead. So there is a syllabus and the course, you know, link or textbook linked from that course folder that you could be using some of those strategies. I was going to ask Jessica, but I don't think she's here. Let me look down the list. No. So anybody else work on Sunday night? Know how that's going? So Jessica, you can respond to me to let me know how that's going with algorithms, because we've got a few on every other night except your night. Scientific, that was just mentioned. We've seen a rise in that. So Julia gave this nice little link to, if you want a little brush up spot, this is a good place to go to just kind of see some of the syntax for C++. Just a general reminder again to greet people as they arrive. That's both online and in person, because then they just know that you see them. So even if you can't serve them right then, as students walk in, just kind of say hello and make sure that they're finding the classes. I was really glad to hear that people are using those signs and that that's working, and people are kind of getting into the rhythm of where to go. But you got to remember also always that sometimes it will be a student's first time at CS Lab. So always be greeting students and making sure they know where to go and that they see, oh yeah, I'm seen, and you're going to help me. So like I said, Julie and I met a couple times before this meeting and worked through these notes together. She's going to take it from here so you don't have to just hear my voice. So go for it, Julia.
Okay, yeah, so down at debugging here. So especially if it's a class that Dr. Gossett teaches, try to model using the debugger when you're like going through things. Obviously, sometimes when it's really busy, print statements are also helpful. Just make sure to take those out, make sure the student takes those out after they're done. And then like what was mentioned before, working on the whiteboard, especially if there's like a group, which we'll talk a little bit more down below, but especially if there's a group, working on the whiteboards, really nice to explain things as we talked about. And then also, especially for any course that's going to be using like, or for like scientific and computer systems, it's especially important to start with just like one error at a time, and then kind of like, you know, point out where they can find the error and locate that error as well. And then if you get stuck personally, obviously, you know, utilize your other tutors that are in the room. They're really great resources just for taking another look at something. Also, the answer key for algorithms specifically, obviously, is the only one for that, if you can make sense of that. And then also feel free to email the professor. Sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't, but at least you can tell the student, oh, you know, I emailed the professor. And then also, kind of last resort thing too, if you're still stuck, just encourage the student to go to the professor's office hours. And then again, you can also email the prof. So working with groups. So just some reminders, make sure to keep the course signs consistent with like placement, so the students always know like where to go and stuff like that. And then continue to encourage students to come at the beginning of the session, just so that, you know, you can all start kind of from the same place and kind of start grouping people as they come. And then again, with groups, encourage groups. So they're good for students as they can share ideas, as we were talking about at the beginning. And then it's also nice as tutors, because then like it just things go a lot more quickly if you're helping a group of students rather than each individual. So groups are really great. Let's see, and then some large group protocols and strategies. So just kind of first, start off seeing if there's any like common issues or common difficulties that people are struggling with, and then try to group students who are at like similar stages. So obviously if somebody's like way into their program, it's going to be a lot different than if somebody's just starting. So try to kind of identify those. And with that also, when you're working with groups, try to have a higher level approach. So keeping like the big picture in mind. And then, this is again, write down pseudocode on the whiteboard and just kind of the logical steps rather than actual code. So like, obviously we don't want students to be just like copying each other's code. So just kind of writing down like a general overview of pseudocode is good for this. Let's see. And then, yeah, just always encourage questions. Try to, always ask questions like, oh, well, what would you do next year? Or, stuff like that. Just get them to respond instead of you always doing the talking. Make sure that they're also being engaged there too. And then going down next, we have working with needy students. So obviously we don't want to spend too much time with one student, because that means we're, neglecting the other students. And it's also not going to be helpful to that needy student as well. So students obviously gain confidence if they figure out things on their own. So try to like not have them rely too much on the tutor. And then, sorry, I just lost my spot here. Okay. Also, let's see. Yeah, so students need space to figure things out. So there's like nothing wrong with like just letting them, helping them with one thing and then just like moving on to another student and then circling back around. So we kind of put in some example phrases. So you can just say, I'm going to give you some time, some space to start thinking about this on your own, and we'll check back. Ask them, if they just need one more tip before you leave, and then you'll circle back. So yeah, you can just read through these here if you're ever trying to get rid of like a needy student. Yeah, and then let's see, individual tutor options. So watch out for students who are just like copying down information or not really understanding it. And then this kind of goes along with the second thing here. You might consider telling the student about the possibility of a one-on-one tutor. The first step for this consideration is to make an appointment with the, I don't actually know how to pronounce that,
Ask
counselor. So obviously we can't guarantee a tutor, but if they are really struggling, then that could be an option as well. So yeah, I think those were the majority of my notes.
She was fast. So good job. What any reactions to any of that, or anything you resonated with, or any other comments you have on any of that information?
I think the Thursday session has been doing really well on all of that.
Good. Mm-hmm. As the group, have people been coming kind of more at the beginning, or do you get people coming through the whole time? And so you kind of got to always.
A lot of times I'll get there and there will already be groups working at their tables, even when the signs aren't even there. They'll just be there ready to go.
I show up to set up and people are already sitting down working.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really great. That's such good news to hear. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was glad to hear that about the scientific people, even kind of guarding themselves and not giving too much when they share information with one another too. So it sounds like it's been a fairly healthy environment, both on the tutor and student side of things. So that's really good to hear.
I've noticed some of the students have even taken it like they start their project, they come in and finish it, but then they stay a little longer too and just help like the people around them. It's
awesome. Wow.
Yeah, if you want scientific tutors for next semester, I could definitely give you some names.
Oh yeah, shoot me an email with names. Yeah, because that's we've seen that sometimes, like somebody who's like that, who's like oh, I'll just stay and help my friends because I really enjoy this and this is fun. That's the type of person who's a good tutor. So yeah, shoot me any names like that. Have you had many of the needy student that kind of the Klingon, or how has that gone?
There's a few, especially when they are fed up with their project and they just like don't know what to do. It's like a mixture between not wanting to do it and just not knowing how to do it. And then they like want you to just sit there with them and solve it right then and there. So yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that too, just like with a few students. And sometimes if they just kind of like keep asking, oh wait, one more thing, and sometimes I even just go like, oh, yeah, I'm not actually too positive on that. Like even if I like know what they're, even if I know if, like what would work there, but just like, you know, me pretending like, oh yeah, I don't know, try, this, this, and this, and yeah, so.
Yeah, off of that, I think one of the problems I'm seeing or running into at Thursday is the end of the week. Everyone's kind of tired, and the energy and the excitement is so low. And like I like personally like I have to like really try to not like let myself kind of like get dragged into the misery with them. I think it's just kind of exhausting, and I think I know for me, I'm trying to like do this, and I think just for the session in general, like being more awake and like yeah, the vibe, exactly, that's it. It's just it's really rough. And I think the intro classes are being taught a bit differently this time around than they were used to being taught, and so we're less familiar with them as tutors, and it doesn't have, the gossip prep quiz, like super well commented stuff that we're like I was used to dealing with. So it's just harder like that.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, and I don't know if I had that on your notes, but that was one of the famous Dove chocolate sayings. Your vibe influences your tribe. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's really good to be mindful of that, because your attitude can be catchy. And we actually see that on student survey comments, that they gained excitement for the subject from the tutors. So, yeah, you really do influence them, and can make a difference. And that's really good. Mhm. I'll just maybe mention the individual tutoring piece again. Yeah. Kind of watch for that person if there is somebody that's always to the side, and just like they might have a bad night like we all do, but somebody who's kind of consistently over to the edge and not tracking with a group. The way that you can kind of do that is just say, hey, Susie, can we talk a few minutes at the end? And then just privately talk with them, like go in the hall or go somewhere, or shoot them an email just to say, hey, it looks like things have been kind of hard. How's it going? Just open up a question like that. And if they do like agree, hey, I'm struggling, you could just let them know that that exists. And again, never guarantee it, because it's a whole process that has to go through the prof and through me and through an ask counselor, before that gets approval. But that is a possibility for students as well. Anything else you wanted to mention or say, or other things we didn't cover that you had questions about? Because then maybe I'll just end on these reports, which are kind of fun to see. So I just pulled in reports from our Tutor Labs application, where we keep all the attendance, which again, really important to have your students signing in and out and keeping their attendance recorded. But March is the busiest in CS lab history that we've ever had. So you've served students really well. And you're on track to also break the record for spring attendance, which was 233 in the past. We've added, it's kind of almost not quite a fair comparison, because we've added more classes to who we serve. We used to only serve Intro to Programming, and it used to be called CS1. Those were the only two classes we served at the very beginning. So it was a smaller pool to draw from, but you've already got 176 contacts for this spring, which is awesome. You can see it's pretty large compared to the last several years. So you truly have been serving more students. So that's really excellent. Like I said at the beginning, students come back if they've received good help. So that's just a good sign. Percent of students enrolled who attend CS Lab, that's also a really good stat to look at. We have had 47.4% of all students who are enrolled in CS classes attend CS Lab at least once. So that's really awesome too. That's the highest percent since fall 19. Highest percentage ever was a 61%, just showing who is using the lab. So that follows there in that chart. Course attendance. The first comment is just it's good to see students coming from all the courses. Scientific, like we mentioned, is awesome because we had very few in the past coming from that class. So it's nice to see people attending. We have between 40 to 9% of all students in classes who have attended the lab. So algorithms is the highest attendance. But you can see, all classes are getting attendance. So that's a good sign as well. And this is kind of also how we see it too. Notice for computer systems, we only have 13. That's kind of actually what is fine to see. Once students progress into the program a little bit more deeply, they become more independent learners. And so we don't expect as high of a attendance there, but also there's
something I would say about computer systems though, is that the Thursday night, like when we were talking about it in class, and I think that would be the night that people would most like to go, but people are least able to get to. Like Tuesday would be like you can't go on a Thursday if you're in that class, and the Tuesday, like everyone has night classes, and Sunday it's like the weekend, and so I think the numbers would be higher for that one if it was offered another day.
Well, and I'd just say to them, you just have to make a priority of Sunday, for example. So Sunday is usually a time most people could come. So if you get that complaint, maybe just say, well, make it a priority part of your schedule to get the help. And also you can see some of those classes are small attendance or small course size, like there's not very many people in the class itself too. So that's something to keep in mind when you look at those figures also. Average session attendance, all sessions are serving students. And this would be what, to your point, Anna, well, I guess not, because you said a lot of people have a night class, but Tuesday has been the busiest night as far as average attendance. I just averaged it over using that table below with how many people have come. Those have been the figures so far for the various nights. So it averages out pretty well, which is great to see as well, because we are using all those nights. There's not a night that's not being used. We don't see zeros like we saw before in the past. I don't know if you've been around in CS Lab long enough to know that, but there were zeros a lot of times, and there are no zeros anymore. So that actually is a really neat thing to see as well, as students are using the lab and the times too. Anna, do you have any idea of what they would use? Like what would be a good time?
So like for people in my class who like Thursday would be the day that we're most likely to go, because that would be, usually our projects are due like on Friday. And I think another thing is there's so much overlap with the algorithms course that they spend all of their time on algorithms. And even if there was the option for this course, the one I'm in, computer systems, I think it would be like less used anyway, because there's just the attention is being devoted elsewhere. I think Tuesday honestly would be the best, except I know I have a lot of friends who say like, and like it's for me too, like I can't make it to any of the CS lab nights for my class.
You can't make it to the Sunday night.
Nope. I have like a dedicated commitment on Sunday nights and dedicated commitment on Tuesday nights. And I
Yeah.
know at least one other person who's also like that. And
Yeah.
more people who just can't make Tuesdays. So
Yeah. And that's just kind of a way of student life. I think we're never going to be able to meet everybody's schedules, but yeah, I think if we can staff well the schedule that we have, that will be an improvement also. So just making sure we can staff all courses every night will be a goal that we have as well. Well, good. So I would just say you're doing a great job. Thank you for your service. And if you have ideas for prospective tutors, shoot me an email on those. If you have ideas for any way we could improve any part of our process or things that you come up with ideas, let me know for that as well. Otherwise, any last words from anyone? Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Take care. We'll see ya. Bye.